This is the Inkpulp podcast. This is the Inkpulp podcast. Comics, hip hop, life. Welcome to the Inkpulp podcast. It's my birthday. I'm a very young 48 years old today. I don't feel old. I feel good. I'm happier than I think I've ever been. I'm in a great mental place. I'm in a really good physical place. I'm in a great creative space. I mean, my body feels the aging process happening. I'm in good shape though, but it doesn't mean that my shit don't hurt like every fucking day, because that's what being old is. But you take care of yourself, you get the minor pains. You don't, you get the major pains. Excuse me. So today we're doing something different. This is going to be the first of many. Like I said early on, this podcast is going to cover. It's going to have different types of videos. So today's video, my plan is to do a voiceover of a sped up version of me inking a piece. So I'll be talking about my intent, I'll be talking about my process, tools, all that jazz. It's going to be a shorter podcast, but I hope you enjoy it. Please do, in those comments right down below, let me know if this is the type of thing you'd like to watch. Although I'm going to keep doing it, I just need to know if there's a better way to present it, I guess. It's the first one. We'll see how it goes. I'm going to be doing more and more process things, more and more educational things, and some off the beaten path type things, along with the normal stuff. I got some really good and interesting stuff coming up. Yeah, that's dummy me forgetting to turn off my notifications. I keep doing that. I got to get better at that. Please forgive me. Please forgive me. Before I get started, I guess some food for thought. It's a strange time we're living in. And I think I addressed this a little bit last time, but I still don't understand the All Lives Matter response to Black Lives Matter. It's almost like a bunch of white people don't want to be faced with themselves or the reality that they're unaware of how they perceive the world. Not unaware of how they perceive it, but their perception is off. And look, if I can rewind time a little bit to just maybe 5 years ago when the Black Lives Matter movement started, if I'm being honest with you all, which I always am, and honest with myself, I was like, well, don't all lives matter? I didn't understand it. I didn't understand it because I wasn't really aware. I'm very aware now. So I've learned, I've grown, I've listened. And I think that's the key. And my hope is in that showing you, if you're of that All Lives Matter camp, that if you just open your mind and open your heart and open your fucking eyes, you'll see it too. We need change. Things just gotta change. I don't know what's gonna happen in this country. I mean, we were built on some racist shit, and it has not gone away. I think it was hiding in the shadows, and this fucking idiot who's leading us right now just creates division so he can exploit it for his own benefit. And I think you gotta wake up from that. Stop letting the extreme sides of politics fucking own you. Use your own mind. Think your own thoughts. Look around. We have to accept differences in each other. I'm not saying we should accept racism. We have to accept differences. But this racism thing has to stop. Can it stop? Can it stop? I don't know, because there's some fucking ignorant motherfuckers out there. So I don't know. But here's a story. I've told it on my podcast before, years ago. But I think right now, I've been thinking about it a lot. And I think telling this story is a good way to illustrate why that all lives matter mentality is off. Because you have, what it boils down to is you have to acknowledge the privilege you've had, that I have had, and I do. And if you're saying all lives matter, I don't think you're acknowledging the reality of the privilege you've had. It's not your fault you have this privilege, but it exists. I think that's the key, is people who say all lives matter don't want to accept fault for something they didn't create, but they have to be aware that it's there, and then they have to make change. So I was 22, probably 22. I was out of college. As you know, I'm very big into hip-hop, and these were... this is probably around the time Cypress Hill Black Sunday came out, their third album. Wait, Black Sunday? No, Temples of Boom. Black Sunday is a track on the second album. Temples of Boom, which was my favorite Cypress album until their last one, Elephants on Acid, which, man, that shit bangs. If you're an old Cypress fan, check that shit out. Some psychedelic, dark, awesome rap. But Temples of Boom was out. I was loving it. And I was living at my parents' house, upper middle class, Maryland. And I had friends in the city, Baltimore. And I think I don't know. I feel like I must have been, I don't know. I know I had a bandana on my head. Probably had a flannel buttoned all the way up, cholo style. And I was driving back from my friends in the city. I went in there to pick up probably an ounce of weed. And I was driving back on 95. And I had the Cypress album just banging. I was high. I had a bowl on me that I'd just been smoking while I was driving. Don't do that, kids. Don't do that. Like I said, I was 22, and I was a bit stupid. And I was just jamming, and the music was loud as fuck, and I couldn't hear it, but I see in the rearview mirror sirens. And I don't think I was speeding too bad. I might have been, but I don't think so, because I remember being like, what am I getting pulled over for? But then it was the freak out mode. I had an ounce of weed in my pocket, and I had a bowl in my hand, which I shoved in the glove compartment, or no, in my side compartment. And I pull over, and as I'm pulling over, I'm rolling down my windows, just trying to air the fucker out, panicking. Now, here's where you have to start the separation of what a white person versus a black person will go through in this scenario. I'm not scared of the police. I'm scared of what this will do to me financially and professionally, and what my parents will say. I am in no fear of these police, I don't feel I'm in harm's way at all. So that right there is a whole different thing. You got to stop and think about that. If I was black, I would be, if my fear level was like at a 1 out of 10, if I felt like I was at an 8, the reality is I'm probably at a 2. But if I was a black person, I'd be like at an 11. Because I did have drugs on me. I was high and getting high. And then you got to put on top of that, I'm a black person being pulled over by police. This is a scary situation. I'm in physical danger. And I think that's something that you have to wrap your head around. You have to think about that. I'm not saying all cops are bad, but there are enough of them that it's a problem. So I start to pull over, and I mean, my mind's going nuts. I'm like, all right, they're gonna find the weed. That's a given. Okay. So I'm sorry. It's my birthday. Everyone's got love for me. They're texting me. So I'm like, all right, I'm gonna spend the night in jail. Okay, my parents are gonna bail me out. Okay, and right there again, that's a privileged position to be in. I know I'm not going to get lost in the system waiting for a trial. I know I'm going to be out the next day. But I'm like, all right, if I apply for jobs, this is going to be on my record. How long is that going to last? This is a fucking problem. You know, I'm going to turn off these notifications because this shit is getting a little out of control right now. Just bear with me. Bear with me 1 second. All right, that should stop the madness. No, wait. That should stop it. Okay. So I'm running through this in my head. And I'm like, all right, I'm just coming to terms with this is it. All right, I'm going to be in jail tonight. That's going to suck, but I'll get through this. I was just out of college, and look, I knew I was going to be an artist, so I was like, maybe it really won't affect me too bad. I think I was upset because I wasn't going to get to the gym the next day. I mean, really, let's look at this. Like, these are my fears and thoughts, and they're relatively minor because of my skin color. So one cop comes up on my driver's side, and I see the other cop. Oh, as I was pulling over, and I'm sure they saw like my shadow or my silhouette doing this, I reached in the side compartment, and I'm like leaning back to put the bowl in my pocket. I want all the weed on me because I know if they're going to search my car, they're not going to search me. It's best to keep it on your person. Or no, I didn't get the bowl in there. I got the weed in the pocket, and then remembered the bowl was in my glove as the cop's coming up driver's side, or the bowl's in my side compartment. And then I see the other cop on the like passenger side back seat, like shining his light all in the car. Now I had a little SUV, and the cop asked, "Do you know why I pulled you over?" And I'm like, "No, I don't think I was speeding." So I really didn't know why they were pulling me over. And it's not like I was driving erratic. I was a pro at driving high. I had that shit locked down. And he goes, we have a lot of drug trafficking in this area. Now, this is a stretch of 95 that goes from Baltimore to Washington. So it makes a lot of sense that there'd be a lot of drug trafficking along that route. So I'm like, oh, okay. Well, that makes sense. We're like, okay. They're like, do you have any drugs in the car? I'm like, no. And they're like, well, we'd like to search your vehicle. I'm like, okay. And I'm stalling them a little bit. I had my door like open, but not all the way. Like my hand was still on it, and I'm like, all right. I think I said something to the extent of, well, do you have any reason to search my car? And they're like, no, we're just checking cars out in the area. And I'm like, all right, well, if you've got no reason, then what's the point? And he goes, well, if you've got nothing to hide, what are you worried about? I'm like, oh. And that kind of triggered a thing in me where I was like, all right, they're trying to play some mental shit on me. And I was like, all right, you want to play some chess? Let's play some chess. And I clicked into privilege. I wanted to let this off. I know how I looked. And I looked for the part of someone who might be driving drugs. I did have that look going for me. So I was like, I need to let these police know who I am, and they'll realize I'm not what they think I am, and then they're going to let me go. Or I think I said to myself, I hope that'll be enough. So once he said that to me, it was like, if you got nothing to hide, then what are you worried about? I said, actually, I know my rights. Okay, one. I just graduated college, so I'm showing I'm a college-educated dude. I'm not an idiot. And 3. See, I can't. This is my drawing hand. I can do it here. It's fucked. That's my 3. So, and 3, I said, and my dad's a lawyer. And right there, I was showing. It was like I had a privilege card. Here you go. There it is. I was like, so I know my rights, and I know if you don't have any probable cause, then there's no reason for you to search my car. Then what are we doing here? And once I had shown him that I was a college-educated white person whose father was a lawyer, he said, okay, sir, go ahead. You have a wonderful evening. And they walked the fuck away. Now, this blew my mind. I don't know where I had the balls to do this, because I had always been fairly timid in front of the law. But, yeah, I fucking had some big balls right then and there. But they walked away and they let me go. That's privilege. That whole story is privilege. And if you want me to take the privilege to the next level, as soon as they pulled away and I saw them getting farther into the distance, I reached into my side compartment, pulled out my bowl, and got high because I needed to relax. Put on my music and drove the fuck home, clean as a bird. So that story I think about a lot right now. When I think about the fact that a black man was being detained for possibly trying to, I don't remember exactly what it was, pass a $20 counterfeit check and ends up dying. All right? Whereas I had an ounce of weed on me. I'm sure my car must have smelled of it. I was smoking it. I didn't get in any trouble at all. Where a black man selling loose cigarettes ends up dying when the police come in versus what I had. So I think about these things, and I think that right there is a very key illustration to why we have to get behind Black Lives Matter. Because, like Neil Brennan said, this is a triage. And that's where the life support is needed right now. And another story of my privilege with the police was when I was 16 with a license. I was driving a good friend of mine and his girlfriend. I was the driver that night. So I honestly had nothing to drink that night. I went to a party, but I did put in for the beer because I wanted beer for me for the next night. So I had a case of my own beer in the back of the car. And my friend, looking back, was an obvious alcoholic. And was, I don't know, I was getting all melancholy, and I don't know if him and his girlfriend were fighting. His girlfriend was a good friend of mine too, and I had dated her years ago. But she was a really good friend. And so he got stupid drunk to the point where he was just, I mean, he was the type of person that got drunk and got violent and got fucking rowdy. And his girlfriend, my friend, I was looking at her. We were at the party. We're like, let's get him the fuck out of here. He's a mess. So got them both in the car, was driving them home. And my friend tells me he's going to puke. Now, I'm in my parents' car. I cannot have vomit in the car. I pull over to the side of the highway. This is actually, I'm off the highway at this point, just off the highway. I pull over. He's out there puking, and I'm in the driver's seat talking to girlfriend. I think she was like, I think I just need to break up with this fool at this point. And as he's out there puking, whoop, whoop, lights. I'm like, motherfucker. I'm like, but I don't have anything to drink, so I'm good. Cop comes out, what's going on over here? My friend had too much to drink, as you can see. Did you have anything to drink, sir? No, I did not. Lights in the back of the car. What is this, sir? That is a case of beer. It is not opened. But you, sir, are not of legal age to have this beer. I was 16. Okay, yes, this is true. It's in my car. Oh, I might be in a little bit of trouble. Now, this cop was very kind of by the book. And it was like, all right, sir, here's what we're going to... they asked me what was going on. I was like, look, my friend got really drunk, and I'm honestly just escorting him home. I just wanted to get him home. Just trying to do the right thing here. And they're like, all right, well, that's good. That's good. They smelled my breath. I had nothing to drink. I was good. They're like, all right, well, we're gonna help you get him home. But you need to empty these beers out. I had 24 beers. One by one, me and my friend's girlfriend were pouring out my beer. Beer I was so excited for. Beer I had paid for. Was in my... When you're 16 and you have a case of beer, you have won the fucking lottery. So I'm pouring them all out. And the cop's like, all right, we're going to escort you to get him home. Fine. They're like, but we are going to have to arrest you for having this in your car. God damn it. So, but we're not going to do it right now. We're not going to put you in cuffs. We'll come to your house tomorrow. You can just sign the little sheet and you'll get your little probationary period, and that'll be that. Won't go on your record. Don't worry about it. Got my friend home. Got home, told my parents, hey, police are going to be here tomorrow. I've been arrested. Told them what happened. They're like, oh, all right, well, you did the right thing. And so, pause. That's, again, some privilege. If I was a black kid, it would have gone down differently. I'm not saying I would have died, but I don't think they would have been nearly as lenient. Next day, a cop shows up at my house. This cop just moved down from the Bronx. This cop knows some shit. And he's like, I am really surprised this officer is going through with this with you. You did the right thing. I mean, if it was me, I would have helped you get him home. That's right. The first cop didn't help me get him home. They just let me go. He was like, I would have just helped you get him home, shaking your hand and been on my way. You did the right thing. I'm sorry. I mean, this cop was apologizing to me for the fact that he had to have me fill this arrest sheet, sign this arrest sheet out, and that I'd be doing probationary work. So there's that. So again, that's that right there. That's what I'm talking about. So Black Lives Matter, people, just fucking get on board. Let's make some shit change. Yeah, there's another time where things didn't go so well for Sean. That was when I had a 45 held to my head while I was held up against the wall by 5 cops. That was some scary shit. And that was not fun. That's a story for another time, okay? All right, so let's do this. I don't think anything else to announce. Hope you enjoy it. Please get involved with the comments. Please subscribe to the YouTube channel. Let's grow it. I want feedback. I want likes. Please give me likes. If you like it. I'm not asking for any disingenuous likes, but please just get in there. Get subscribed, leave feedback, leave comments. And let's do this. Very soon, the podcast is going to be coming to Farside TV in a couple weeks. We're ramping it up. I've got, after today, I'll have 3 of the 4 buffer episodes recorded. And we're looking at a July 2nd release on Farside Network. And then that podcast will air on my YouTube channel the day after. The 3rd, remember the 3rd. Look at that. Is that something I need to worry about? God damn, is that some damage, Sean? All right, enjoy it. I was gonna blow a kiss, yeah. Hi everyone. So I'm going to attempt to explain what's going through my mad mind during all this. When I first start inking a drawing, I try to find a space that will be very forgiving. It takes a few minutes to get in the groove, a few minutes to loosen up. So that's where those black flick marks are from, the action movement behind the surfer there. And now I'm just working my way around the contours of the figure, defining the thick, bold, dry brush lines that I'm really enjoying lately. And I work through some of the face. And here I like to define the outside and inside edge of those cosmic speed lines that involve a flicking motion. They rely on a thick ink and a rough paper and the proper amount of speed and lift on the mark. And you can get short, fat ones, you can get long, thin ones. I try to do it so you can't see the individual brush marks too much, but if you can't see them at all, it just becomes a haze, and I needed some directional movement on them. Here I am working down the arm there, and you'll see right here I'm shading the underside of that forearm there with some hatch marks, all with dry brush. I remember my ink was it's getting a little thick right now. I kind of make my own ink formula, which I'll walk you through on probably my second instructional Inkpulp instruction video. We just shot the first one. The second one will probably be out before the end of 2020. With the surfer piece here, I really wanted to try to keep the detail and focus around his torso and head area. And I wanted to give you the sensation of him flying through space with these asteroids around him, but not drawing too much to make it a too busy or too complicated of a composition. Rendering the anatomy when a character is made of chrome or silver, like the Silver Surfer is, I find the trick to that is really just drawing the anatomy and giving it a strong core shadow. And if you follow that core shadow with your inking, it can give it a reflective look. So you got light bouncing on the back side of the object, light bouncing on the front side of the object, and what's left is a black shape in the middle that describes anatomy. And I also try not to soften any of those edges too much, because if I soften it too much, it won't look reflective. And you'll see at the end, I do some stuff with white. And here I am rendering his shadow falling onto the asteroid. I thought that was a neat little effect to give some motion to him flying through space as I'm working on the texture of this. And also on the head, I found that when you're when you're working with a highly reflective material and you have that coarse shadow, you can add some grays into there. It makes the white areas pop more and the black areas pop against it more. I mean, when you're dealing with something like chrome, I think sticking to a 3-value system is a pretty good idea. I think if you get into too many range of values, it doesn't look reflective anymore. I think a reflective surface is often a very high contrast surface. And there I am rendering in some of the craters in this asteroid. I don't even know if that's the right word, asteroid. Cosmic rock. That's probably a cooler way of saying it. So here I've got some light kind of catching on the underside of the asteroid, lighting up some of the craters there in a different way. Creates a little bit of reflective light on the bottom. So I know if I was coloring it, like you'd hit that area with a different color than the main area. It'd be a reflective light color. And since we're in space, I'm thinking pink or purple might work really cool. Here I am continuing the motion. Back to the surfer now. And a few more crater marks. All in all, so I was saying my ink is a little thick here. It didn't disrupt the final product at all. It just makes the journey of creating it a little different. And it does give you, it allows you to get dry real fast, but it's harder to stay wet and solid when you need to. So it's nice to not always have everything be the same way. You get very comfortable and used to something, and I think it's good to have some elements when you're working not be totally comfortable, so that it forces you to focus harder, and it also teaches you as you go. So there I am working on the leg again, dealing with the anatomy throughout this piece. I wanted the surfer. I don't like the Silver Surfer when people draw him just like a muscular human without any clothes on who's made of silver. And you're probably looking at this saying, Sean, but that's what you did. Kind of. I tried to exaggerate. I wanted him to look a little more alien. So I exaggerated the length of his arm and the size of his hand. And his feet, I kind of drew them as if they were like just clumps, almost like metal sneakers that were a part of him. But then the highlights describe the toe anatomy. And that was something I discovered. That was like the last thing I drew. And I discovered at the very end. And it kind of opened up a whole bunch of ideas on how I would approach the surfer in the future. Like, I think I'd like to make him a very simple shape, a very almost like a fat stick figure, but interesting in design. And then I could describe all the anatomy with the reflective surfaces. It would be so odd looking and cool. So it's something I definitely want to toy with at some point. And maybe one of you would like a commission of that very idea, me taking this Silver Surfer to the next level of design. If so, please email me at inkpulp@gmail.com and let's talk. I think that would be a fun little experiment. One thing I enjoy about commissions more so than working for the companies right now is it gives me freedom to tweak and design and do things differently. I mean, I got into comics because the comics I grew up on, the artists I love, they all have their own take on things. But since comics have become so mainstream and these properties have become so important, there's a certain level of consistency expected throughout the design. It takes a lot of the joy of drawing the book. I mean, if you just look at Batman alone, you could go from Kelly Jones to Bruce Timm to Bernie Wrightson to Neil Adams to Brian Stelfreeze to anybody. You just name it. John Paul Leon, Tommy Lee Edwards. There's so many different interpretations on Batman that that's the fun in it. So I'd much rather do commissions or draw these characters for fun than work for these companies nowadays. There's a lot of joy missing from working for them these days. Yeah, there's my clumpy feet, and I'm just using the highlights to define some toe anatomy, which I found really cool. And I really would like to experiment with that on a full body scale. Even the head. Even the head. I wonder what I could do with that. It'd be a fun little experiment. Getting to the other asteroid, again, dealing with some reflective light on the underside. Always helps give some volume to the asteroid object itself. There's so much texture in that rocky surface. You can do some pretty cool things in there. And just inking in these craters. And you can see on the surfboard, I didn't finish it in the back. I wanted this like sense of motion to carry throughout the piece, so everything seems like it's exploding from a point kind of above the heel of his far foot. That's kind of like the vanishing point. So I wanted everything to kind of disappear. Here I'm using a ruler and a brush. It's a really great technique. I use it sometimes for speed lines or architecture. For the most part, I do have a pretty trained and controlled arm. But when I started I used to have to pick up a ruler and a nib, and I never liked, like, it wasn't smooth, it wasn't flow. I just can't figure out nibs. They don't flow for me. They're not smooth. But when I started to fuck with it with a brush and it started to work, I was like, I love this. Brush and a ruler, that's the jam. Nice thick outline on the front of the surfboard, getting thinner as it recedes in space. And as you can see, this is all freehand because that's how I get down. I got mad control, I got mad skills, and that's what it is. All right, I don't know what I was just doing right there. Here I've got a little bit of shadow reflecting into the surfboard. And as soon as we get done with the black work, which is coming up, see that? Look at those lines. I know it's fast, but I can just pull those lines. I love that. I love when I got that comfortable with a brush that I could do that. So now I'm going to, oh, look at that, more fancy ruler work. Now I'm going to, oh, my stamp. Oh, isn't that cool? I got an Inkpulp stamp. So if you get a commission from me, you get that stamp. Now I'm working with white. And this is something I kind of stole from my buddy, Eric Canetti. I noticed he would use white to clarify the silhouette of an object and also help build some depth between that object and other objects. So outlining the surfer kind of brings him in front of the asteroid, in front of the space, and also all those little white dots are adding to the reflectivity. And the white around the asteroid there puts it in front of the leg, and the white around the hand by that asteroid puts it in front of the asteroid. You get a nice little bit of depth there. And there's my signature, and that's that. Thank you for listening.